has put more people in jail in the United States of America than any other country on earth. We are listening to our Latino brothers and sisters and other undocumented people who are tired of living in the shadows and want a path toward citizenship. This campaign is based upon a very simple principle, and it's a principle that has existed throughout American history, and that is that real change never comes from the top on down. It always comes from the bottom on up. That is how workers fought for their dignity 100+ years ago when they said, we're not animals, we're not chattel, we are going to engage in collective bargaining, we are going to form unions. And that is the struggle for civil rights in this country going back hundreds of years of African Americans and their white allies who said this country is not about racism or segregation or discrimination. We are going to create a non-discriminatory society. It is the struggle, the historical struggle of women who 100 years ago now, did not have the right to vote, did not have the opportunity to get the education they wanted, did not have the opportunity to do the jobs they chose. Women stood up and fought back and went on hunger strikes. That's how we combat sexism. And this is about our history in which, not 100 years ago, not 50 years ago, but 10 years ago, if somebody was here and said, you know, I think that gay marriage will be legal in 50 states in America in 2015, the person next to him would have said, what are you smoking? Which raises another issue. Said is that people have a right to love each other regardless of there are a lot of differences between Secretary Clinton and myself. I want to kind of point out one. Which is very important. Let's tell the truth and let's acknowledge that the campaign finance system we have in America today is corrupt. When I was thinking about running 9.5 months ago, you know, a lot of the pundits said, well, you know, you can't do really well because to run for president in this day and age, sadly but truthfully, costs huge amounts of money. Huge. Really huge. We're talking hundreds of millions, if not more than $1 billion. And what the pundits said was a fair point, is how are you going to raise this this money? Are you going to have a super PAC? And what we said is, look, we do not represent the interests of the billionaire class. We don't represent Wall Street. We don't represent corporate America. We don't want their money. Well, that sounded very good, but then we had to figure out how we were going to raise the money, and something literally revolutionary has happened. We'll talk about the political revolution. We have already achieved one part of that revolution. That is, we said, look, if we're not going to get money from billionaires, if we're not going to go to wealthy people's homes and walk away with millions of dollars, how are we going to raise the money? And the answer was pretty simple. We're going to ask working families and the middle class for their help. And what has happened, and this in a million years I would never have predicted, but what happened in the last 9.5 months, we have received 4 million individual contributions.
Woo!
Somewhere around 1.5 million people. And you know what the average contribution is?
27!
When a handful, a small, few hundred families contributing a very significant part of the total campaign financing in the current campaign, the idea that we could receive 4 million contributions averaging $27 is kind of mind-blowing. What it tells us is not just that there's a lot of support out there, but it also tells us that the American people are going to defend democracy and are going to tell the billionaire class they cannot have it all.
Yeah!
Now, Secretary Clinton has chosen to go in a different direction. Super PACs, and our major super PAC recently reported that it raised $25 million from powerful special interests, including $15 million from Wall Street. Now, I know that every candidate who has ever received special interest money always says that the millions of dollars they receive will never influence them.
Right.
Never, never, never! Well, the American people need to ask a very simple question. If these contributions from powerful special interests have no influence over the candidate, why are they making these huge contributions? Well, maybe they're just dummies and they want to throw their money away.
No.
I don't think so. So I am very proud. I'm very proud that our funding comes from working families, and that in fact this campaign, to paraphrase Abraham Lincoln at Gettysburg, is a campaign of the people, by the people, and for the people. As Josie just said a moment ago in Spanish, and then she translated it, is, bottom line is, yeah, those guys have unlimited sums of money, that's true. They have incredible power. They own the media. All that is very significant. But the truth is that when millions of people stand together, refusing to allow the Trumps of the world to divide us up, so well and has so much momentum is that we are doing something fairly radical in politics. We're telling the truth. And sometimes the truth is not pleasant. Sometimes the truth is something one would prefer not to deal with. But I've always believed that if you don't confront reality, if you just kind of push it underneath the carpet, it only gets worse. So we have to deal with some unpleasant realities. And one of the unpleasant realities that we deal with today is that in our country we have more income and wealth inequality than almost any major country on earth, and it is worse today than at any time since 1928. We are the wealthiest country in the history of the world today, but very few people know that because almost all of the new income and wealth being created is going to the top 1%. Today in America, the top 1/10 now owns almost as much wealth as the bottom 90%. Today in America, the wealthiest 20 people own more wealth than the bottom 150 million people, half of our nation's population. Today in America, one family, the Walton family, who owns Walmart, own more wealth, one family, than the bottom 40%. Today in America, in Vermont, Massachusetts, all over this country, we have people who are working longer and longer hours for lower and lower wages. We have folks who are working 2 or 3 jobs just to cobble together some income and some health care. And in fact, in America, our people work the longest hours of any people in the industrialized world. Japanese are very hard workers. We work longer hours than they do. You got mom working, you got dad working, you got the kids working. And after all of that hard work, 58% of all new income goes to the top 1%. So are you ready for a radical idea?
Yes, sir. Willing.
Together, we are going to create an economy that works for working families, not just the billionaire class. And when we ask why it is that people are working so hard and so many hours, the answer is not complicated. Wages in this country are too damn low. The federal minimum wage of $7.25 is a starvation wage. Together, we're going to replace that starvation wage with a living wage, $15 an hour. When we talk about fair and equitable wages, I know that every man in this arena tonight will stand with the women in the fight for pay equity for women. Here's something we don't talk about a whole lot, but it's important that we all understand that every month, government comes out with a number of reports regarding unemployment. What you see on the front pages of the papers and on TV is the official unemployment rate, which is now about 5%. What you don't see is another government report which talks about real unemployment, which includes people who have given up looking for work and people who are working part-time. That number is close to 10%.
Yeah.
What you never hear about is youth unemployment in this country.
Oh, God, yes.
Real youth unemployment for high school graduates between 17 and 20. If those kids are white, 33%. Those kids are Latino, 36%. If those kids are African American, 51% unemployed. If anybody here thinks that there is not a direct correlation between that outrageously high rate of youth unemployment and another national tragedy that we are going to deal with, and that is that as a nation, we have 2.2 million people in jail today, more people in jail than China or any other country on earth.
Whoa!
So you ready for another radical idea? Together, we are going to invest in jobs and education, not jails or by creating millions of decent-paying jobs. We are going to hire teachers, not fire teachers. Together, we are going to create a first-class child care system with hundreds of thousands of new educators taking care of our kids. Was beyond my comprehension. What I heard, and it was so painful and so horrific, I don't even want to relate to you what I heard. It was so painful. It was hard for me to believe that I was hearing a discussion about what was happening in a community in the United States of America in the year 2016. Couldn't believe that. So what we have got to do, not just for Flint, but for communities all over this country, we have got to rebuild our crumbling infrastructure. Our water systems, our wastewater plants, our roads, our bridges, our airports, our rail system. We can create millions of decent-paying jobs. Now, people say, well, Bernie, you know, that's a nice idea. You want to spend $1 trillion, create 13 million jobs, rebuild the infrastructure. That's a nice idea. How are you going to pay for it? I will tell you how we're going to pay for it. We're going to pay for it by doing away with an absurd tax loophole that allows major multinational corporations who make billions of dollars a year in profit to stash their profits in the Cayman Islands and in other tax havens. And in a given year, some of these corporations making billions pay zero in federal taxes. We're going to do away with that loophole. We're going to take that $100 million a year. We're going to invest it in rebuilding our infrastructure. Talking about family values. You ever hear Republicans talk about family values? They just love families. But here is what they mean. It's important that everybody understands it. When they talk about family values, what they are saying is that no woman in this arena tonight, no woman in this state, no woman in this country should have the right to control control our own body. I disagree. What I'm saying is that